Let the record show that all board members are present. And I don't see anybody in the public here, so we will move to closed session. We're gonna go in the back room in case somebody shows up.
Oh, okay.
The meeting. Yeah.
We had a farm called The Missing Leg, which I thought was very cute. I thought that was adorable. The Missing Leg, which you have legs on. I thought that was in the label, but this is years ago, years and years ago, so.
Is that bottle of wine?
Okay, I will call the regular meeting of the Templeton Community Service District Tuesday, September 5th to order. And I have the roll call, please.
Director Sparganish.
Here.
Zardini. Here. Logan.
Here.
Pearson. Here. Peterson.
Here. Will you join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to report that there was nothing to report from the closed session that we had prior to this meeting. Okay. Special reports, so we'll start with the California Highway Patrol. Commander Stewart. Good, how you doing? No prejudice here, that's the way it was written in the.
Well, I understand he's the opening act and I'm the main.
Yeah.
There you go.
How it works, that's how we like to do this. Good evening, good to be with you. Lieutenant Chandler Stewart, commander of the Templeton, California Highway Patrol Office. And this is our report for the period of January 1st through the end of August, a 2-month report. Total crashes investigated for the period, there were 34, 20 on the freeway, 14 on county roads around Templeton. That's an increase of 1 over 2022. 27 of those collisions were property damage only, down 1. 7 of those were injury collisions. That's up 2 from the prior year. 4 of those took place up on the freeway, 3 on county roads. That pencils out to an increase of 29%. 5 involved DUI drivers. That's on par with last year. 2 on the freeway, 3 on county roads. There were no fatal collisions for the period. We're happy to report. There was 1 elsewhere in our jurisdiction, but not here in the Templeton area. There were 565 total enforcement contacts for the period, 525 of those up on the freeway, 40 on county roads around Templeton, an increase of 38% over the prior year. There were 2,462 enforcement contacts throughout our jurisdiction, up from 2,214 the prior year and 1,866 the year before that. There were 362 citations issued, 340 up on the freeway, 22 on county roads, up from 243 the prior year, an increase of 33%, and 227 of those were for maximum speed violations, speed in excess of the posted speed limit. 221 of those, up on the freeway, 6 on county roads. There were 4 citations issued for speed in excess of 100 miles an hour on the freeway near the town of Templeton. That's up from 3 the prior year. And there were 5 citations issued for seatbelt violations, up 1 from the prior year. There were 16 DUI arrests, 6 on the freeway, 10 on county roads around Templeton, up from 13, a 23% increase over the prior year. There were 91 DUI arrests throughout CHP Templeton's jurisdiction, up 82 from 82 the prior year and 71 the year before that. For your information, we provided 497 motorist services throughout our jurisdiction during the period, and that is our report.
Are there any questions?
I'm just curious, with those who are driving over 100 miles an hour, which just seems so crazy. Is that, do you know if that is occurring at night or is it in the day? I'm just curious if you know offhand.
And I haven't looked at for night and day correlations.
Yeah.
But it appears to me statewide and perhaps even nationwide, the majority of that happens during the day when there's higher traffic loads. So there's just more cars on the road during the day. The phenomenon grew during COVID. So nationwide, there's been an
Yeah.
increase in 100 mile an hour plus speeds throughout the country. And we've been battling to take that back, and we have been going in the right direction. In fact, this is the first report in probably 8 months where there's been a tick up. You're probably aware the speed limit on the north end of our jurisdiction has been lowered back to 65. That's true all the way
Yeah.
through King City. Partly a result of this trend, probably because that's where the bulk of those real high speeds are, on the very north end of our jurisdiction.
Okay.
Sometimes it's more congested through here,
Yeah,
which might indicate it would be like midday, possibly early morning, where you'll see some of those speeds, and certainly at night.
yeah. Well, because that's just so fast. It just seems crazy to me. And so I was kind of curious, is it happening in the early morning hours or is it during the day? Which you've got more cars on the road.
Yep, and the cars are becoming better equipped and much smoother to drive.
No,
and
just all you
the
do is blow a
technology-
tire and you're rolling.
Technology moves us in that direction. That's not to say it's not wrong, it is wrong, it's very unsafe.
Yeah.
But you do find more and more people doing it, and in the 80s, in the 70s, 80s, maybe even the 90s, and they may not have realized how fast they were going as they might have been earlier times.
What was the reasoning behind lowering the speed limit 5 miles an hour? It seems to me if they're gonna drive 100 miles an hour and the speed limit is raised to 80, they're still gonna do it, or if it's lowered 5 miles an hour, they're still gonna do it.
When Caltrans released the press information on the change in the speed limit, they cited a 7-year survey that Caltrans performs. It's based on engineering speed data that they developed. That's their purview and that's their specialty. They reached out to the Highway Patrol to share information that we might have statistically. The press release, cited King City as having supplied some statistics. Those were actually our statistics, that the majority of high-speed enforcement was on the beat which touches that section of the freeway, or that section of the freeway is included in our North Beat or RV4. So we did have a voice in their decision, but it is based on their engineering and speed surveys. They cited increase in fatal collisions and increase in injury collision over that period, and felt that speed was a factor. From our standpoint, the lower speed limit does have the deterrent effect in the sense that the violation per mile an hour over 65 then is greater, so fines are greater. We'll usually see people will respond with lowering their speed when speed limits change a little bit.
Okay, thank you.
But
Any other questions? Any questions from the public?
thank you, sir.
Hi,
Thank you,
have a
ma'am.
good evening.
Okay, you're up.
Thank you.
Molly. You're the closing act.
Thank you. Hopefully I won't put you to sleep. Good evening, Michael Manueli, Commander, Sheriff's North Station. I have your report for July 2023. The station experienced 1,584 calls for service compared to last year, 1,963, a drop of about 19%. Templeton had 334 calls for service compared to last year, 388, a drop of approximately 13%. Compared to San Miguel, which had 183 calls for service. Breaking those calls for service down into reports that were generated, the station generated 235 reports. Compared to last year, 258, a drop of 9%. Templeton had 61 reports compared to 65 last year, a drop of 6%. And looking at San Miguel, they generated 24 reports. Breaking those calls for service down into specific areas, assault and battery, there were 3 calls for service generating 2 reports. We had a suspect punch another employee after sexual harassment training, apparently that upset him. Then there was 1 domestic violence report. We had 22 disturbance calls generating 1 report. We had a suspect refusing to leave the hospital. They were ultimately arrested for outstanding arrest warrants in Boca Jail. Burglary, there were 4 calls for service generating 2 reports. We had a doorbell damage and the front screen screws were bent and it was hanging off its hinges. We had another attempt of the lock missing and items stolen from a storage unit. Then there were 2 theft calls for service generating 2 reports. We had theft of medications and theft of a large flower pot valued about $450 from the front of the property. Vandalism, 5 calls for service generating 4 reports. We had a building vandalized with eggs, mailbox vandalized, and an attempt to make entry into the electrical room, and then the graffiti damage to a property. There were 4 trespass calls, none of them generated reports. 16 suspicious circumstances generating 2 reports. We had the group, which is calling themselves, quote, California Black Shirts, in quote, left Ziploc bags with stones and with their flyers on them. These particular group may be related to the people that we have seen on the Vineyard Overpass flying some offensive signs, possibly related, but as of this time, we don't have any criminal action against them. And then we had reports of a vehicle following a juvenile. That person we were unable to locate. Additional note, we had deputies dispatched to attempted robbery at one of our local establishments. The subject was gone when we got there. We later located a subject matching that description. That person was arrested for providing false information to an officer. They did not give their correct name and carrying a concealed dirk or dagger type weapon. We were unable to establish the elements of the robbery in that particular incident. Additionally, if you've driven northbound on 101 near the Main Street, or if you've driven Main Street northbound, you will notice that the co-located dispatch center project on our property is well underway. And we are looking forward to that. It is going to be a long project. We're looking for the first quarter of 25 to finish that project. But we are happy to say that it is now underway. And that is my report for this month.
Can you go back to people with rocks in their bags? What is this?
So they're taking their flyers, this group which is spreading hate speech is putting their flyer in plastic bags and they put rocks in the bags to keep them from blowing away. They're putting them on vehicles, lawns, throwing them out on lawns, front door steps and everything. So the rocks are just there to keep the plastic
Oh,
bags.
so they're not hitting people with.
No, they're
Okay.
just using them as
They don't
a
blow
weight.
away.
Yeah, to keep it from blowing away or to help toss it out of the cars as they're driving by.
Any other
It's-
questions?
It's been happening here in Templeton, and I've also heard about it in the South County, reported out of the South Station as well.
Any questions from the public?
I just had a
Oh,
quick
sorry.
question. Hi, thank you for the report. I was wondering in terms of staffing that deputies and things like that, how is that? Are you at full staff or?
No, far from it. I am still trying to catch up, still behind in my staffing. We have 5 deputies in the training program throughout the entire department right now. And I'm hoping to get 1 or 2 out of that. It comes down to a mix of retirements, people leaving for other agencies, and injuries that take a long time to come back. So the portions that we can fill, we're working diligently, with recruiting and getting them through the training program. And I hope to be staffed, but I can't say when that's gonna happen. We definitely.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for what you do, for both of you.
Appreciate your support every time. Thank you.
Would any of the board members like to change the order of the agenda?
No.
Okay, seeing none, this is time for public comment, and members of the public may address the board on any items of interest within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board, but not on the agenda today. So are there any public, that would like to make a public comment? Seeing none? We'll move along to the consent agenda. There are 3 items on the consent agenda, the minutes from our meeting of August 15th. And the appointment of Measure A Oversight Committee members. And C, resolution number 14-2023 amendment to facility rental policies.
I would like to ask the board to consider item C, the amendment to the facility rental policy separately, and if the request you can pull that for further discussion.
Okay, are there any other?
No, I just have a comment on B.
Go ahead.
I would like to thank both members for stepping forward and volunteering to be on the oversight committee, and I appreciate their commitment to our community for doing that.
Anything else?
If not, I'll make a motion.
Okay,
I'll make a motion to approve our minutes from the August 15th meeting and for the appointment of the Measure A Oversight Committee members.
I'll second the motion.
Nicole?
Directors Giardini,
Yes.
Logan,
Aye.
Fredonish.
Aye.
Pearson. Aye. Peterson.
Yes. Okay, item C.
Yeah, I'm sorry, item C is a pretty minor change to the facility rental use policy. Essentially what the intent of this item was to move any embedded fees into our master fee schedule, so the policy didn't need to change at the time the fees were considered for updates. However, we discovered, and so that's really what this does. We discovered today that there are 2 items under the section of B. They actually fall on, and the pages are not numbered, so it's a little bit tricky. It's the 3rd page from the very back. It looks like this item's policy C is the bottom of the page. There are 2 items on that page that we would like to ask you to consider amending further. The first is a reference to the Templeton Library book room. The book room approached the district maybe 8 years ago now about obtaining a reduced rate to hold the book room in the rec center. And that was approved, and when it was approved, this policy was amended to assign a lower rate. Well, the library has its own facility now. It's very unlikely that there'll ever be a need to accommodate that again. And so our recommendation is just to strike that reference altogether, including the master fee schedule. There's just really no reason to have the reference there. And then the second is on item number 5 at the bottom. It's the second line item from the bottom. And this is just an issue where the reference to the master fee schedule wasn't incorporated. And item 5 be revised to say, an additional fee, parentheses, see master fee schedule, will be charged for private rentals when the renter resides outside the Templeton Community Services District boundaries. That additional fee is part of the proposed master fee schedule already. So it would be recommended that those revisions be approved if you approve item C.
Any comments from the public? Seeing none, I'll move that we approve resolution number 14-2023, amendment to facility rental policy.
Well, as amended, to adjust the library master fee schedule and to add the wording provided by the general manager, and additional fee will be charged for outside community. Does that have to be in the motion?
Yeah, it should be,
Yeah, you agree with that?
Yes.
Clarification.
I'll second.
Roll call?
Directors Peterson,
Yes.
Giardini,
Yes.
Pardonish,
Aye.
Logan,
aye.
Pearson. Aye.
Okay, moving on to business items. We have a public hearing and it's resolution number 15-2023, fire and emergency services development impact fees.
Yes, I'd like to introduce Alice Lickowitz, who's joining us remotely tonight, and she's here. You'll recall this is an item that we've been working on since earlier this spring. It's been before you on a couple of occasions. We did notice a public hearing for tonight's meeting, so I would recommend that the board open the public hearing. We've asked Allison to kind of go over just the same figures that you've seen before, just in case there's some new folks here who are attending the public hearing. At the conclusion of the public hearing, you can answer, I'm sorry, at conclusion of the presentation, please ask ourselves or Allison any questions that you have, and then take any testimony or comments or questions from the public. After that is concluded, we have two recommendations. One is to adopt the master the fee schedule program, or the fee study report. And the second separately is to adopt resolution 15-2023, which would implement the proposed fees effective November 4th. Again, neither of those items should take place until the public hearing has concluded and any comments from the public are considered.
And is the board to consider each one of these items separately?
Separately, please.
Okay.
When does the fee increase go into effect?
It would go into effect in 60 days on November 4th. So if there are any questions of staff, I could turn this over to Allison and she can walk you through the figures.
Sounds great. Good evening, everyone. So let me share my screen. Okay, I believe you can see the PowerPoint now. So everything I'm going to review tonight, we've reviewed a few times here at the board meetings. There we go. So this is no new information. It's really a refresher course for the board members and any public who needs a refresher here. So as some background, impact fees are one-time fees paid by new development. And the idea is that new development should pay its fair share of facilities and assets and infrastructure costs of that new development. So new residences, new businesses that will use your fire department, infrastructure, assets, buildings, they should pay a portion of their fair share of those costs. And typically it's paid, the impact fees are paid by developers and they're kind of wrapped into the cost of new homes. The legal requirement is that the fees must be proportional to the capacity or benefit attributable to development. And the fees are not used to pay operating costs. So as new development occurs, the impact fees are paid when the building permits are issued. The district constructs or maintains or retrofits its facilities and assets to accommodate new development. And then that new development, whether it be new homes or new businesses, then becomes taxpayers. And then as a taxpayer, that parcel then is covering operating costs. So your current fees are updated annually by inflation and charged to residential and commercial customers. Single-story development is charged 87 cents per square foot. And then multi-story development is charged $1.60 per square foot. And the reasoning there was that at the time that the fees were initially established, there was a need to fund some aerial equipment to provide fire protection for larger building sizes. And then through the course of the study, we found that most new commercial development does fall in that 18-foot category there and is paying the multi-story fee. So an update is needed to encompass the new facilities envisioned in the master plan assessment. The main one is the fire station expansion cost. And as I mentioned, the new concept of where your fire department is going and the needs of the fire department no longer includes the need for an aerial apparatus. So our planning study looked at 20 years into the future. I know in the last meeting, we spent a lot of time talking about growth, what's an appropriate growth metric. But ultimately, we looked at available water supply as a potential indicator of the capacity of the community to grow. And then we wanted to be a little bit conservative. So we scaled the growth metric down a bit. And so we think over the next 20 years, the community will grow by about 36%. So when we think about growth, we think about both equivalent dwelling units. So that's homes. So it could be single family homes, multifamily homes, townhomes, assisted living, mobile homes, all kinds of dwelling units. We call those equivalent dwelling units. And then also non-residential development. So commercial enterprises, even like, you know, you have a lot of healthcare facilities. It could be new nonprofit health development. And so we applied that growth factor to both residential and commercial growth. And then just as a refresher, we were directed by the directors here to do more research during one of our prior meetings on the non-residential growth. And we did do that and better verified our numbers there. So let's spend a minute and talk about the costs that we are planning to recover in the impact fee. So the fire station expansion cost is the biggest portion of cost for recovery in the fee, as well as estimated cost for the training grounds and the type 1 pumper engine. So in total, we have about 7 million of expansion costs, but that is reduced by existing impact fee revenues. That's about 2.7 million. And then you do have a fire service, a capital fire service fee that we think will generate about 362,000 over the next 20 years. So in total, that reduces the cost to about 3.9 million for recovery in the impact fee. So the next few slides establish the nexus for how the impact fee is proposed to be charged and kind of how new growth or development impacts your facilities or takes benefit from your assets and facilities in the fire department. So fire department is available for both fire protection services as well as medical response. And then looking at your master plan assessment, about 60% of calls are related to medical response. So we weight the medical response component of your facilities based on number of people. So residents or employees for non-residential growth. And then fire protection, we weighted based on square feet of structure size. And so that doesn't necessarily mean livable space. It also includes carports, covered, building space, workshops, sheds, garages, all kinds of buildings and structures that need fire protection. So that all flows into the weighted impact of each square foot of either a residence or a non-residential or commercial development. So as I mentioned, we're doing a weighting factor based on number of people per home and structure size. And then non-residential impacts are based on building size and the number of jobs or employees created by the new non-residential development. So this is all the math that goes into the study and the calculations, more for background. But ultimately, The proposed cost per 1,000 square feet for residential construction is about $1,200, and the proposed non-residential construction impact fee is about $1,900. And for residential development, we propose to scale that cost per 1,000 square feet based on different types of residential development. So as I mentioned earlier, you do have a range of housing types and sizes in your community. So we have single family homes, multifamily homes, and then we also wanted to cover the accessory dwelling units. So minimum size accessory dwelling unit is 750 square feet. Anything smaller than that, and you cannot charge a fire impact fee. And then the maximum size is 1,200 square feet. So at the time a permit is pulled, you would scale the fee based on thousands of square feet. These are a few examples. But the typical single family residential home, we think would be about 2,500 square feet. And so the fee would be about $2,900. So this chart shows a survey comparing the current and proposed residential fire impact fee for Templeton with other local communities. And so the proposed fee is actually lower than the current multi-story fee. So we are proposing to kind of collapse the single story and the multi-story into a single fee category, since you no longer need or envision the aerial apparatus. So your proposed fee, like I said, less than the current single story fee, less than Pismo Beach, but fairly comparable to Arroyo Grande and the county. And then this chart, similar chart comparing the commercial proposed fees per 1,000 square feet compared to other local communities. And we included only the 2-story fee because we did find that almost all commercial development in your area does hit that 18 foot tall threshold for being the multi-story fee. So that is an increase there on the proposed fee. But again, very comparable to the county fees, and then much less than Pismo Beach. So that is my presentation tonight. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for that presentation, Allison. Can you go back to the slide of costed revenues?
Let's see, there we go. Okay. Costs and revenues. This slide?
Yes. A question, training grounds. That's for our training grounds here on the Creekside property.
Correct.
So I thought Paso Robles was establishing a training facility, and if that happens or it's in progress because they opened up their new fire station there, that we would not need ours anymore. So that would be a cost that we wouldn't have to entertain then.
So that's still a big if up there. We're not sure that's gonna happen up there, so we want to keep this in there for the potential of continuing with this training ground. Because it's gonna require, and even if we don't, we'll need this as a kind of a secondary for us, because we train a lot more than the other departments with regards to bringing on new reserve firefighters on kind of a more continuous basis. So we're gonna need to do those upgrades.
So what does the $432,000 buy us?
Well, it's kind of a multitude of things, but primarily we need water and sewer connection down there. We need a bathroom facility. And then we're gonna have to replace some of the tower, which is our training tower, which are those Conex boxes. We're gonna have to pave some of those training props around there, extend one of the hydrant lines. So there's quite a few things that are rolled into that.
I think the biggest cost was the
Training classroom.
The modular facility to be used as a training classroom and for a restroom.
But isn't the modular building going over here as a temporary solution?
It could go over here as a temporary solution, but its cost component is wrapped up in the training grounds. So that's where its permanent home would be located.
Okay, and so how water and sewer then are gonna be bored underneath the railroad tracks?
There's already water to the facility.
Yeah, water's there.
Water's there. We have multiple well sites at that location. Water service is at the well site. And we evaluated the cost of both installing a septic system if it's far enough away from the water facilities, or discharging sewer across the railroad through a bore.
It's, so which one did we decide?
Yeah, there's a cost for a sewer component built into this training ground cost. There's been no final decision made, but there's a cost component to provide one of those two.
So either septic or.
Right, no, I got that. Okay. So the Paso Robles Fire Training Center was given money in 2013. They built that fire station. They still don't know if they're having their training center built yet.
Well, I don't think they've got their training facility funded yet.
So it's just the fire station.
Fire
on
Station
Union Road.
3 on Union Road,
Road.
yes, correct.
Okay,
There's one other factor that if in fact there's gonna be a local or a more local place to hold more intense training, that would be a benefit to us. We also use our training facility for what we'll call on-duty training. That's actually the primary use of the training facility. That really cannot be accommodated in Paso Robles. We couldn't take our on-duty crew and take it that far out of the district for regular periods of time without it affecting response times within the district. So I mean, you're gonna add another like 15 minutes, 10 to 15 minute response from that facility. So our on-duty crew, I don't know how often we'd be sending the whole on-duty crew into another community for training.
Yeah, we don't have the advantage of having 2 stations like
Mhm.
Paso Robles or 3 stations like
Right.
Paso Robles or the county, that they have another engine come cover us or cover them. So when or if Paso Robles sends an engine down to our training grounds, they can cover with 2 other stations.
oh, I see, okay.
And then Atascadero has 2 stations, they can cover with the one
Cover.
station, if they send someone up to our training grounds, we don't have that luxury. If we
Ah.
sent somebody, our crew
Up
up
there,
to there, we've got nobody covering Templeton.
okay, that answers actually gets to, because I couldn't figure out why other people don't hear. That answers it, okay. Okay,
Any other comments? Okay, I will open it up for public comments, and it's just a public hearing, so are there any comments from the public? Seeing none, I guess I will close the,
Actually, could you leave it open for one moment?
sure.
Thank you. I just realized that the version of the staff report and resolution that is posted online and that 3 of you are looking at is updated and correct. But the photocopied version is an older version of the staff report. And so if you wouldn't mind, what I'd like to do is go print out copies of the resolution and staff report for those of you who are relying on paper, just so that you know exactly what you're considering. If you wouldn't mind taking about a 5-minute break, we could do that, take any final comments under the public hearing, and then move forward. There is no material changes, but there's some citations to the government code that's been added to the resolution based on legal counsel's advice, and that made it, it apparently didn't make it in the photocopy version, and so our apologies for that error. But if you don't mind giving me just it's
Okay, we'll take a
quick
5-minute break.
so Mr. Someone, I wasn't.
You take it after.
Yeah, it's here. Some people get really, really sick. Some people might. I really I've never tested positive for it. either.
Here's looking at the
Yeah,
online version.
yeah, we have the online
You
version.
want to decide, I don't know, you're following?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, call meeting back to order. Oh, I was about to accept public comment, so is there any public comment on this item? Seeing none, I guess I will close the public hearing. We have to make two motions here, so.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that those of you who didn't see this corrected, the correct version. A resolution is what you'd be voting on. There's a citation to the government code section 66016.5 in here that wasn't in the prior version of the staff report. That's a reference to a specific public hearing notice which was made and a period of time that the information that was under consideration tonight was available, which it was. This presentation was given to you. It's been on our website since mid-July. So I wanted to call your attention to that. The resolution would, so there's two actions tonight, just to clarify. Adoption of the fire development impact fee study, the contents of which Allison just presented to you a few moments ago. That's item number one. Only after that's adopted can you consider adopting the resolution. This is the updated version. It's not, I printed this off our website, so the version that, if you looked at this online, you looked at the correct version. It would implement the impact fees as shown in Exhibit A. They're the same under both versions of the resolution and match the items that are posted online, and were presented to you by Allison a few moments ago. Again, those would take effect if the resolution is approved on November 4th, 60 days from now.
Okay,
I'll make a motion, adopt the fire development impact fee study prepared by Lekowitz and Sang Municipal Consultants dated August 18th, 2023. I'll second.
roll call.
Directors Giardini,
Yes.
Pearson,
Yes.
Bardonish.
Aye.
Logan. Aye. Peterson.
Yes,
And adopt resolution 15-2023, which implements the recommended fire facilities capital charges effective November 4th, 2023.
I'll second. Roll call.
Directors Giardini,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes,
Bardonish.
Aye.
Logan. Aye. Pearson.
And the motion passes.
okay, the next item is item C, resolution number 17-2023. Adjusting cafeteria plan benefits for employees hired after May 2014.
I think item B is resolution 16-2023.
Oh, I
The
missed
master
this one.
fee schedule.
Sorry about that.
Yeah,
Another public hearing. My apologies. So that's resolution number 16-2023, update to the master fee schedule.
yes, thank you. And thank you, Allison. Just this is a pretty simple item. A public hearing has been noticed because we're proposing to amend the district's master fee schedule or some fairly minor components thereof. This really deals with three areas. The first being facility rental charges. The district has not updated this in about 10 years. And after our utility rates had gone up a lot, particularly natural gas rates over the winter, we examined the facility rental costs and compared those with some neighboring agencies that have similar, or try to find comparable facilities. This item was discussed in some detail with the Parks, Recreation and Refuse Committee back in May. And these, the charges that you see in the staff report on the left side of the existing fee are proposed to move to the new fee. So they vary based on what is proposed. Generally, the private or for-profit use of the community center goes from a 4-hour minimum to a 2-hour minimum, but the hourly rate goes up. The nonprofit or public purpose rate goes up, but includes the kitchen. We've had just some issues with having a separate fee for the kitchen, even though most folks aren't really cooking in there, they like to use the kitchen space to put drinks in the fridge, etc. So we've incorporated that into the use. Anyway, you can see the proposed adjustments. It also affects the park and field use at German Park and at Everest Park. The second section of the master user fee schedule that's proposed to adjust is the new meter installation fees. Right now, those are grouped into a couple of different categories. It is proposed to change based on, these are just our costs of purchasing meters that are compatible with our meter reading system, plus the labor rate for installing them. And so you can see that we're proposing a fee for 5/8 inch meters. That fee is actually lower than the current charge. There's not a lot of demand for that, perhaps irrigation meters on a commercial property, 1-inch meters. And then separately charged for 1.5 and 2-inch meters. Right now, those are grouped together just because the cost of those meters, the cost of the actual physical meters have gone up a lot, and there's a substantial difference in price between a 1.5 and a 2-inch meter. And then the cost of upgrading from a 5/8 inch meter to a 1-inch meter has a lot more labor costs involved. So it's recommended to be increased. And then finally, there is a fee that's in place now, but we wanted to capture it in the master user fee schedule, and that's an out of district. Really an out of district and out of both Templeton, Templeton's community service district boundaries, as well as out of Templeton Unified School District boundaries. So if a child who lives, let's say, in Santa Margarita or Paso Robles proper, wishes to enroll in our youth sports program, there's an out of district fee that is recommended to be at $50. This is an item that was discussed actually about a year ago and has been in place, but it was not captured properly in the master user fee schedule. So it's not really a policy change, but rather just capturing in this right location. And then finally, the resolution includes those same fees on that you just discussed on the fire impact fees. They're folded into this new version of the master user fee schedule, so they're shown in their entirety. Although those fees more clearly illustrate, or that section of fees clearly illustrates that it's effective not until November 4th. The other fees will be effective upon adoption of the resolution.
I have a question. The out of area fee that we discussed in the facility policy, removing that $15 out of district, has that been incorporated into this document?
Yes, it's actually shown on, it was already in here on page 7 of the resolution. It says renter resides out of TCSD boundaries. It's a $15 additional fee.
Okay.
But the new fee is $50.
The new, that's for youth sports
For youth
participants.
sports. The other is for the facilities.
The-
Okay.
I have a couple questions. How can the lights per hour go down? Electricity?
We moved to LED lights a
Ah,
couple years ago. And so our actual cost of operating them are lower.
and then a residence usually takes a 1-inch or 5/8 inch meter.
1-inch if fire sprinklers are required, fire flow requirements. So there are very few, there's essentially no 5/8 inch meters going into any sort of buildings except for, again, commercial landscaping or something of that nature.
How many out of district sports kids do we have
It-
percentage wise?
Well, there's two categories of out of district. There's the out of TCSD, but within TUSD, fairly common. And then out of TUSD, or that's the Paso Atascadero kids. It depends. Last year during soccer season, we had a huge influx of Paso Robles youth in our programs because the Paso Robles soccer program got a late start, and maybe some of the parents were worried that it wasn't organized well enough, and so we had a big influx, and it really kind of overtook or had a big impact on our program, our facility. So the fee in part is to discourage that, or at least make people think twice about doing so. So I think on a percentage wise basis, it really varies depending on the program and what's going on in the neighboring community relative to how they're organizing their sports. Just keep in mind that both the city of Paso Robles or in Paso Robles and in Atascadero, most of these programs are not run by the city. And so there's a turnover on the nonprofit boards that put them on, and sometimes they can change the program or the rules, or maybe make it a little less predictable. And so some parents have chosen to enroll in our programs only because they've been a little more stable. Because they are, they're under us as a municipality.
So are our kids given for twice?
They're not, So that was the other option that we kind of looked at was maybe having like a late, not allowing the out of district families to enroll, but it's fairly difficult to administer that. This is kind of an on your honor system. It's not very hard to come up with a address of record. Anyways, there's a lot of families where you might have one parent living in one community and another parent living in another community. And so we settled on, let's just raise the out of district rate. Hopefully that will discourage some of the families. And what we saw we have, we're starting soccer this week. We have about 100 less participants. We don't think that that's attributable fully to the increased fee. The pastoral soccer program was more timely and appeared to be maybe more organized, and so there was just less pressure or fewer of them came, but maybe to a certain extent it was due to the higher fee that was charged.
Well, I am not opposed to kids coming from out of the area. Better to keep them occupied than not. I was just wondering what the percentage was, but I suppose it, like you were saying, it is flexible depending on, is it basketball, is it soccer, is it softball? So I was just curious, but thank you.
Any other comments? Yeah, we'll open it up to the public. Seeing none, I guess we'll close the public hearing. Somebody would like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that the board of directors approve the master fee schedule, resolution number 16-2023.
Second.
Roll call?
Directors Logan,
Aye.
Pearson. Aye. Ardonish.
Aye.
Giardini.
Yes.
Peterson.
Yes. Okay, now we're on item C, resolution number 17-2023. Adjusting cafeteria plan benefits for employees hired after May 2014.
Yes, and thank you. This is my item to present to you. The district has kind of a two-tiered system for employee and retiree health benefits. Essentially in 2014, the district made a change so that employees hired after that date didn't automatically receive retiree health insurance benefits upon retirement. Employees hired before then had built a sizable liability. And so we, like other agencies, made some changes in this area. As a part of that program, we implemented a cafeteria benefits program that allows the district to set its contributions for health insurance beyond what I'll call the PEMCA minimum. It's really our contract with PERS for health insurance requires us to contribute a fixed amount each month per enrollee into that program, and then contribute the rest through an IRS Section 125 cafeteria benefits program. The PEMCA minimum goes up each year, and so that's out of our hands as far as making decisions on it daily. You'd have to exit the CalPERS health insurance program to alleviate yourself from that. And in 2024, it's $157 a month per enrolled. The cafeteria plan back in 2014 for new employees was designed to pay for 100% of the cost for employee only in the lowest cost plan that was available in our area. And the dollar amount was set in 2014 to be the difference between that premium and the $157. So when you combine both the cafeteria plan and the PEMCA, wasn't $157 at the time, the PEMCA minimum, probably like $50 back then or $80. It totaled the premium for that lowest cost plan. For employees that had a dependent or more enrolled in the plan, it was going to cover 100% of the employee and 80% of the first dependent. And those costs were fixed at a dollar amount in the cafeteria plan benefit. And the district just chose to go that route at the time, so that when the premiums increased the district didn't automatically absorb those increases, but could decide on an annual basis or a periodic basis whether it wanted to adjust those benefits. So each year since then, the PEMCO minimum has gone up, usually by $2 or $3 or $4. This year it happens to be going up by $6. $6, I should, this year for between 2023 and 2024, goes up by $6. And then on 3 occasions since 2014, the district has increased the cafeteria plan benefit, coinciding with increases in health insurance, so that the employee didn't absorb that full increase. For 2024, health insurance premiums are going up pretty substantially, and particularly for the lowest cost plan, which is pretty unfortunate because most of our employees are enrolled in that lowest cost plan. And absent a change in cafeteria plan benefit contributions, those employees, so 18 of our 23 full-time employees would be absorbing that the full cost less the $6 increase in the PEMCO minimum. So the bulk of the vast majority of the increase. So the item before you tonight would essentially sort of reset that original 2014 goal. It would increase the cafeteria plan benefits for employees hired after May of 2014 to match the lowest cost plan when combined with the PEMCO minimum for the employee only, and then would also cover 80% of the first dependent enrolled. If the employee has their family enrolled, they're absorbing that cost in its entirety today and would in 2024 as well. About $600-700 depends on what plan they choose. So that's kind of a little brief description of this. Essentially, the annualized cost of this adjustment is about $17,500. That's if all the employees stayed in the same plans and had the same number of dependents enrolled as they do presently. Each year, there's an open enrollment opportunity. Employees can change plans, leave the health benefits program altogether, or you may know there are these other triggering events that can allow employees to add dependents or change plans based on a family status change. So these things are not super stagnant. Things are in flux to a certain extent, but based on the current enrollment pattern or current enrollment, it would be about $17,500 annually. We had factored in our budget a factor of health insurance premium increase. The increase was a little bit larger than we had hoped, but our factor includes enough money to cover these costs in fiscal year 2023-24, so that a budget amendment is not necessary to cover the increased costs should the board approve this resolution and increase cafeteria plan benefits again effective January 1st. I think maybe importantly, it's important. I should note that this item is before you now. I know it's only early September, and we're talking about health insurance premiums that are going to hit in January, because CalPERS has an open enrollment program for our employees that is mid-September through mid-October. And so in order for employees to make the most well-informed decision that they can during open enrollment, we'd like them to, if there's going to be a change, we'd like them to know what that is heading into that program or that open enrollment period. I hope I haven't confused this any more than necessary. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Any members of the board like to make a comment?
No, you've explained it very well, so thank you. I have no questions.
Members of the public have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I will take a motion.
You're gonna close the public hearing?
Oh, it's not a public hearing on this one, is it? Am I still?
No, it's not a public hearing, but
It's under the heading of the public hearing.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is. It's the second one.
This one. It's only B.
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 17-2023, adjusting the cafeteria plan benefit contributions beginning January 1st of 2024 for full-time employees hired after May 1st, 2014.
I'll second the motion.
Roll call.
Directors Giardini,
Aye.
Logan,
Aye.
Bardonish.
Aye.
Pearson, aye. Peterson.
Yes. Okay, moving on to the general manager's report.
I just had one other item one item to call to your attention, and that is, you may recall that we've had a fire crew out on a fire that's up on the California-Oregon border for 2 weeks now. And, do expect that crew to be released, the next day or so and be back here by maybe Friday morning. So that's good, and, they're safe and hopefully getting close to being off the incident.
And so for the benefit of the public that's here, the district is reimbursed for that fire crew that is out of district. Fully reimbursed,
Crew and the engine.
and the engine, yeah. So it's actually additional revenue for our fire department.
Which engine did they take?
The Type 3 7160.
And that's works fine, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I know that came up in TAG, that's why I wanted to make a point of that. Because there was question about whether or not that's an expense for the district. So I had to clarify that at TAG.
Fire is that?
Well, it's multiple fires, but they have what's called the Smith River Complex and the Six River Complex, which are multiple fires in each complex. And our crew is on the Six River Complex, and they bounce between a couple different fires.
That's right on the border.
Yeah, just south, kind of straight across from Crescent City.
It's
It's the only item that I have, unless there's questions of any, items that I've.
Well, I do have a question regarding our engineer, who is retiring. Any prospects yet, or have we begun recruiting?
Yes, we've begun recruiting, it's actually about 2 weeks ago. So we're open, we are encouraging folks who might be interested to apply. The closing date is October. Yeah, is that sound right? Yeah, October, I think it's like October 2nd, so forget, yes, it is October 2nd.
Yeah.
So still about 3 weeks.
And she's retiring on the 1st of November,
She's retiring on October 20th.
October 20th. So there's not gonna be any,
There will not be. Not expected to be.
okay. All right. Committee reports, we have a TAG committee report and the administrative finance committee report. Are there any questions on those?
I have a question on the admin finance committee report. In it here. So the committee recommended that the property tax allocation remain the same between Park and Recs and Fire. But you made the recommendation that the property tax allocation, or no, the CFD is to give $80,000 annually off the top to the fire department. Do we know that we have $80,000 annually coming in? Assuming we do, but
We have about $76,000 right now coming in.
so it's all going to the fire department, and we need $80,000 a year for asset replacement on a new truck.
Yeah, at the time, the year following the in-service date of an engine, we estimate that its asset replacement obligation will be about 80,000.
And that, but we have some money in asset replacement now.
It's an $80,000 new obligation, essentially. The net adjustment is gonna vary because assets come on and off the books or come on and off depreciation, but just looking at it from a simplistic point of view, if everything else remained the same, we bought a $1.2 million engine and we amortize that cost over 15 years to be $80,000 a year.
Is the Park and Recs committee aware of this?
Well, there's been no action taken by the board. It was just a way of demonstrating that if the first $80,000 of CFD funds were committed to fire, then the asset replacement obligation, just again, looking at just that one component of it, could be covered.
This will be coming to the board. This is not done.
No, I realize that. It's just a recommendation. I'm just asking questions because my other thing is we're down in drainage facilities and lighting facility. And so that's gonna have to be covered by property tax allocation too. And so if everything's going to fire, where is other money gonna come from then? So, and when will this be coming to the board?
When you say this, when will the 80,000, when will will the formal recommendation concerning property taxes? I suggested that the committee, that we prepare kind of like a little, a written statement about what the recommendation was that would come to the next finance committee, admin and finance committee meeting. And then it can come to the board at any time thereafter. The CFD funds, that $80,000 that you're referencing, would not need to be transferred to the fire fund on an annual basis until such time as the asset replacement obligation began. So we know we're some years away from that.
Right, but I thought this was supposed to be taken up at the fire committee meeting too and discussed like
It-
a big budget item. And so this should be discussed during that, and that we're not having that meeting until October.
Yeah, I expected those same items to go before the fire committee meeting as well.
So this won't come before our board in general to vote on and look at until after the fire committee meeting.
It need not come before the board until after.
Okay, it need not and it will not are two different things.
It really doesn't need to come before you for years, I guess is what I'm saying. The only recommendation that the admin and finance committee made was to plan on allocating the first $80,000 a year from the CFD to cover the engine asset replacement. But what I'm suggesting is that is not an expense that's going to be incurred by the district for
For a couple of
for
years.
likely 2 or 3 years. So,
Right,
But
but
it would be nice to know, it'd be nice for everybody to accept that plan if the board were to accept that. So perhaps it makes sense that it would come to the board sooner than later as a
so when
plan.
we get out of monies, when we make out of monies for the fire department, like the fire department is up on this fire right now out of our county. Where does that extra money get allocated to?
It shows up in fire department revenue. Over the last couple of years, we've actually allocated, if there was additional revenue beyond expenses, we've actually allocated that to asset replacement. Or at least some chunk of it to asset replacement.
Okay, because that kind of stuff I think should go in the wording too, is that first the out of department revenue gets allocated first, and then the difference between that and what's needed for the asset replacement be taken out of the CFD funds. You know, I mean, so there's a lot to look at. So I just wanted to make sure that this was going before the fire committee meeting before coming to our board. Got it.
Okay, any other questions? Any questions from the public? Okay. Activity update reports, we have one from the engineering department, and I would like to take the opportunity to thank our Tina Meyer for her 16 years of service, and wish her well.
You'll see her again.
She'll be back. I thought she was.
She's not on vacation right now, but she has items that are slated for the October 3rd board meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I have a quick question on one of the items that is in the report that she has for Everest Sports Park Phase 1. Is talking about the because it was a stormwater basin. And so there needs to be some further, coordinating with the county, with the drainage, things like that. So is that gonna be another project that we gotta?
No, I think it's gonna have to be
About-
incorporated into that project in order to get it permitted.
Wow. And then that's gonna cost more money, which we
Yeah,
didn't.
right
have
now,
to-
I don't wanna it could, but if we don't the county has agreed to assist us in meeting the state water board requirements. And so we were hoping to get some advice from them about how to incorporate that into plans and specifications, but I don't yet know what that entails.
This is so frustrating, I mean. You know, with the county, they don't help us with any parks or nothing, and then now we're trying to get something going and they keep putting obstacles right in front of us. I mean, how long does it take to get a permit?
A long
Yeah,
time,
I will tell you.
years.
I mean, this is just getting ridiculous. Project was supposed to be done 2 years ago.
And with that, let's see, any other comments from board members or reports? Hearing none, I will close the meeting. Thank you all.
Thank you.